Hey, it's Allie with Seattle Coffee Gear, and this is Pepper, my little companion while I'm working from home, um, who desperately wants pets right when I'm doing these videos. So today I am in need of some fresh coffee or some fresh espresso in the hopper. I have run out, so I am putting in a fresh bag of Olympia coffee roasters. And this is one of their more well-known blends, Big Truck. It's got a nice Colombia and Ethiopia mix, so it's got like a chocolate body with like a little bit of a sweet note to it. Sometimes it's fruitier than others. It smells super chocolatey right now, just like out of the hopper. So we're looking for a pretty like specialized espresso. This is going to be more how do you say, modern than traditional, more like American style. But I have had this espresso many times before and I'm pretty familiar with it. So it should be pretty easy to dial in. But I am coming from, the last coffee I had in my hopper was a Ladro, which is a little bit darker, a little bit more like dark chocolate type of notes rather than like more of a milk chocolate. So I'm going to be needing to make some adjustments, but it's always good to know where you're coming from. So I'm going to try to set this up the best I can. Working from, little self camera is always interesting, but I will set myself up the best way I can to show it off, and I'll talk about what I'm doing and what I'm looking for when I'm brewing my shot.
All right, so this is my first dose. So I'm just basically pulling a shot to see where my grinder stands. So the last coffee I had in here was pretty dark, so different density than the lighter roast coffee that I have available. So it dosed right around 20 grams at first. I think it was on 3.75 seconds. So this is me trying to get it back down to that 18. Olympia Coffee, they're very traditional in that recipe. 18 in, 36 out, 24 to 30 seconds or 32 seconds. So I use my Akaya Pearl scale. This is the classic scale, not the Pearl S. I use this one. I've had it for a while, so I've started out using it for my brewed coffee. And I actually really like it for espresso. Obviously, it doesn't fit as nicely as some other scales, but I like to be able to use it for both my portafilter and to weigh the shot. Also has the shot timer on there since my model doesn't have that. So the first shot pulled at 27 seconds and 37 grams, so about a gram over, but it tasted really bitter. The resulting cup, I could tell it was off. It just didn't taste. There was like no sweetness to it. So the next adjustment I make is going to be to coarsen that grind. So you see me mess with the drip tray there. I was actually considering changing the temperature first before I adjusted the grind. But I decided to start with the grind just because that's what I would do normally, and that's my traditional sort of thing. Flush to make sure all that coffee is cleared off of the screen. All right, there's my small adjustment. Dumped it out. Just want to make sure that all my grinds are consistent in the shot that I'm pulling, so that way I'm not getting like half of the coffee grounds from the previous grind setting and half the new setting, because then that wouldn't give you a true result of what you're actually pulling there, or what you're doing. So you see, still overdosing, and since I know that right now I'm going coarser and I don't need to have that much coffee in, I don't want to waste it. So I'm backing off the time there, and then knocking off the extras. One thing I will admit, about what I'm doing right now is I don't really like grabbing the coffee like I'm doing, even though I don't know why I'm doing it in this video. I think it's just the way that I have my setup laid out. Usually what I do is I take a flat finger and brush it off. If you've seen some of my other videos when I'm in the studio, that's usually the way I do it. But I think it was just because my knockbox is in between my grinder and my machine that I actually ended up doing it that way. But you'll see whenever I pull the shot, it causes some channeling there because of all the divots I've made. So let's see, here we go. Yeah, so see, a little bit of those different like streams or spouts is normal, but see how it stays two? That should have come together as one sooner. So that's a good indicator that it's probably some channeling. And I will admit that is from me taking some off the top. So this shot actually ended up pulling at 24 seconds and 38 grams. So that gives you an indicator too of the kind of adjustment that I made. It's actually not that large of an adjustment, but the result was very sour. It was a very sour espresso. It tasted more like a lemon than like chocolate. Um, so I was actually shocked at just how small of an adjustment, like I'd made a small adjustment and to see the large difference that made. So I decided that I should check the temperature of my machine. It was at 117 degrees Celsius, and so I bumped it up by 2 degrees, mostly because the change in the coffee from that dark to the light, I figured it would help out with that extraction and kind of make up for the missing ground I was having between that coarser adjustment and the lighter adjustment. And then at the end there, I actually tasted the previous two espressos just to remind myself before I dumped them out. Just wanted to make sure I was going in the right direction. Sometimes it's a good way, like, especially when you're starting out, to just line them up just so you can remember like the first one and then the adjustment that you made and how that affected the coffee. You can see Pepper's little tail in the background. That's pretty cute. Staring at me while I'm making my coffee. So it doesn't take too long for the machine to heat up to what you made that change, especially if you just do a little bit. You can actually see on my machine it has the left pressure gauge, which shows me what's going on in the boiler. So it'll give you an idea on that too. So the higher the temperature, the closer it'll get to like the 2 bar instead of the 1 or 1.5. So pull my next shot, no adjustment. Always do a little rinse on a heat exchanger first off to check to see if it's like making that crackling or gurgling. That's going to mean that the water has been sitting a little too long, so it's not going to actually be the temperature you want it to be. And to just, clear out the screen. Mm, we'll see. There we go. Yeah, see how that one came together quicker? Less channeling. All right, third shot. So this one actually stopped at same time as the last one, so 24 seconds. Well, actually 36 grams, so 2 grams less. But I did bump up the temperature, so whenever I tasted it, it was definitely better, but I felt like it could give me more. There was more flavor I was missing out on. It wasn't still as sweet as I knew this coffee could be. So I'm making another adjustment here. Just tasting it again, just to be sure, because sometimes you never know if you take a big sip and like all you get is crema. That crema is going to be more bitter than the rest of that espresso. Not really sure what I'm doing here. Oh, that's what I was doing. I forgot to tear out my portafilter. still doing that awful technique. I don't know why I'm doing that. I think I thought about it halfway through too, and I was like, what am I doing? See, yeah, there's the finger slide. But you know, when you're at home, get a little lazy sometimes maybe. Oh, I forgot to flush. There it is. Shot number 3, I believe, or 4. That one came together a lot quicker too. I think I was worried about channeling. Let's see, stop that one. That was 26 seconds, 36 grams, so a little bit longer of a pull. I got picky. I decided to go a little bit more. So this cup here, you see, I actually, it's funny, I like re-spaced out and everything because I was getting really into it, giving myself more space to work. Yeah, so I make a finer adjustment here, just so slight. That's the benefit of having a grinder that can do those infinite adjustments. Just making a small change like that can make up the difference. And I remember thinking like, shouldn't take this much effort to get this coffee dialed in, especially if I know it really well. It's not like haven't had it before and I was searching for those notes. But honestly, I've been kind of choosing some more traditional coffees lately, and those are easier to dial in. You know, they can taste good without having to be so particular in their grind size, but I find that specialty coffee is a lot pickier about the grind. Because if you're trying to pull out all these nuanced flavors, of course, right? So like Big Truck has notes of chocolate and like there's this like berry note and anything with like that, it's like citrus, chocolate, berry, has a lot easier tendency to be bright. Um, and if not, it's bitter. So that's why a lot of coffee shops don't really use a specialty coffee or light roast coffee. But I think it's so rewarding when you do. May take a little bit more effort. It is definitely a little bit more finicky. A lot of single origin coffees can act kind of strange. But gosh, I love this espresso. So this one finished up a little bit later. I think it was 28 seconds, 36 grams. It smelled better. I always smell it before I take a sip because smell makes up, you know, a huge percentage of your taste. And it'll give you a good idea. You know, sometimes I can smell an espresso and just tell it's going to be bad. But that one actually was great. I think that was just the final adjustment it needed.
All right. Took a little bit more work than I thought, honestly. I'm kind of got a little too familiar with that espresso, or I thought I was super familiar with it. But, you know, something to think about is the different machines that you use. will take a little bit more or less effort depending upon what you have. You know, when I was dialing it in commercially, it's a dual boiler machine. Now I'm working with a heat exchanger. So I have to be a little bit more thought forward about that when I'm making my coffee. Thinking about like the different ways, the different techniques, or the way that the machine interacts with the coffee. So this one in particular, it's a heat exchanger, so I needed to flush it a few times, but then I also forgot that I had changed the temperature for the Ladro. Since Ladro's so dark, I'd lowered it. And so I couldn't quite get it to taste the way I wanted it to. It was tasting like sour and bitter at the same time. And that's always a sign for me that both the grind and the temperature are off. And there was a little bit of channeling problems going on there for a minute. And I'm sure you could pick apart tons of things that I was doing. But that last espresso that I pulled, I could tell, like, I made a temperature difference in the temperature. I tried not to do as much channeling and everything, try to make it a lot more even. And that this resulting espresso is a lot more balanced. Yeah, so because it has the deep chocolate notes, but it doesn't like hurt when you drink it, you know, because some espressos are like, boom, tobacco-y. So yeah, it took a little bit more effort than I expected, but that's the home experience, you know. Used a couple, not as much coffee as you think, just a little bit. Wouldn't hurt to pick up 2 bags when you're dialing in a new coffee. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you're staying safe at home and getting to know your coffee equipment really well. I'm definitely getting to spend more time with my equipment than I usually have, and it's been quite a joy, actually. So yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below. Stay safe, y'all. Bye.